Hello, Wellness Warriors. Welcome to Mind Blowing Health Wellness with Violet, Pat Chat Edition. I'm Violet.
And I'm Pat.
Today, we're talking about maintenance.
So we had a question in the community post you posted a couple weeks ago. And one we had was from Sing It about maintenance. So, do you still follow the high fat part to stay in maintenance? I only ever hear you speak of meat and veggie, maybe once in a while an occasional avocado. So, the first thing that struck me with that question was that the high fat part of the keto diet, because we often say that keto is not necessarily a high fat diet.
Interesting because the way that I do keto, people might believe that I'm doing a high fat diet only because I actually do add fat to one of my morning coffees. I add fat. So I guess to answer her question, do I still follow high? Well, I guess I kind of do. However, when you look at how much fat I add, it's not actually that much. So I add, and we did the math the other day. It's 2 tablespoons of actual fat and then 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. So when you do the math
You
on
had
those,
we're going to talk calories, but it's around 300 calories, right?
yeah, if you do the math on the calories, it's about 300
about
calories.
300 calories.
But the reason that I do that is because when I don't do it, I go back to weight loss and I'm trying to stay where I am. I am in maintenance, and I've been in maintenance for about a year and a half. We're probably going on 2 years now of being in actual maintenance.
But that's an important part. Like, you decided that you were going into maintenance because you were losing weight, and you got to a stage where you didn't like it. Like you kept losing weight, and you were basically too thin for your own liking, right?
Yeah, like I think if people go back and look at some of my older videos, and actually some of them still come up now because I'm posting some shorter videos that I had filmed a long time ago. So if you look at some of my videos, you see that I'm like in those videos much thinner than I am now. But it was an uncomfortable thin for me. Like I didn't enjoy how I was looking. I went down 10 pounds less than my original goal weight. So the funny thing is that it turns out that my original goal weight was pretty spot on. It was the weight that I actually look and feel comfortable at. So I'm back now to my original normal goal weight.
Okay. So I guess the question I have is, when does one decide to switch over to maintenance versus because you actually lost the weight you wanted to lose, but it's not my case, and for sure I'm more like in a plateau than a maintenance. Although, like, I think I'm hitting more.
I don't think you're in a
No,
plateau because you're not really eating on plan all the time.
It's true. So I'm just trying to like to bring the ideas of how do people make differences between like eating too much carb versus plateau versus deciding to be on maintenance actually.
Okay, well, the number one thing that I think differentiates a maintenance food plan and a plateau is whether or not you actually believe there's more weight to lose, right? Like, but again, it's belief, because my body has a number, like a weight number, that when it gets there, it's not going to go below that willingly. If I'm eating like, let's say I'm eating like everything the way that I'm supposed to, yeah, there's a number. Like if I would have kept losing, there would have been a point at which my body would have stopped letting me lose, obviously. I think that's the same for most people. Like there's going to be a weight that, but the thing is, what happens when you're not comfortable where your body stops? So for me, I wasn't comfortable where my body was going because it was still on a weight loss trajectory and I wasn't feeling that. I was like, no, like that's starting to make me feel uncomfortable. But what happens when your body stops at a weight that's still above where you had hoped to be, right? And so now the question is that a plateau, or is that really where you're supposed to be?
Yeah.
So there's 2 things that I will put in front of you to think about to like answer that question. Because if your body pauses in the weight loss, but you're still outside that number range that the doctors give us of what's healthy, you're probably in a plateau. Am I going to say that it has to be a plateau? No. And there's one other scenario that I can think of in the moment that would suggest to me where you might be above the number, but that is not a plateau. It's like where your body is going to stop. If you're a person who does a lot of moving, lifting, like you're really, really active, you might have a lot of muscle on there. And so the number might not dip down to where you think the number is going to get to, because you have so much muscle, but in actuality, you look fine. So that's the other thing I would say, like, don't just trust the scale. Look
Maybe,
at yourself.
yeah, maybe a better indicator for that would be your fat percentage. If you have your fat percentage measured, and then you fall in the category really lean, and you're still like on the top of that range, you're still fine. Like you're healthy and
I would also say you could,
like.
if you don't, because getting your fat percentage measured can be tricky, but your
Mm.
height to waist ratio.
Oh, true.
If your height to weight ratio is great, 50% or less is height to waist, or is it waist to height? I can never remember. Am I saying it right? Which one's on top?
The height. Hopefully, the height.
Okay. So the height, yeah.
If your
The
waist
height,
was twice as long as your height, we would all be in trouble.
yeah, that's funny. As you said it, it became very obvious. If your height to waist ratio, so height to waist ratio is 50% or less, then you're probably fine, right? Again, it's very rare that you see where those numbers are not matching up. So I think like that's the scenario where I could see like a muscular person maybe not falling into their numbers. Now, if you are over the weight, not muscular, your height to waist ratio is not less than 50%, you're in a stall. But then the question becomes, why am I in a stall? So if I'm actually eating a very healthy ketogenic lifestyle and I'm still in a stall, it probably means that there's internal work happening, that your body's trying to clean up some stuff and put you in a better position. Because you have to keep it in mind that our body, it prioritizes certain functions.
You know, but still, before going there, you still need to make sure that you're at 20 grams of carbs or less per day. So I think this is the important part. Like, it's not just being healthy. I think you can be healthy like with a little bit more, but you do like the regular or the recognized keto number.
Okay, so when I say
So,
healthy ketogenic
yeah,
lifestyle, like
but it needs to be like,
thank you for saying it out
yeah.
loud, but yeah, so when I say healthy ketogenic lifestyle, that's what I mean. I mean, you're eating less than 20 grams of carbs a day. You're eating low glycemic vegetables as much as possible.
Yeah. But
That you're eating healthy fat, like you're not eating processed fats. So no canola oil, vegetable oil. So, the expectation is that if you're doing the things that are healthier and your body's still in a plateau situation, chances are very good there's internal work happening. But here's the thing. That's good news. One of the problems that I think we have is that we don't recognize that it's not about weight loss. It's about healthy. And my body tries its best to prioritize me being healthy. The reason that all of us, myself included, were overweight was because my body was trying to keep me from dying. 5 grams of carbs, guys. I was eating 300. What was my body going to do but put it away as fat so I don't die? So, like, we get mad at our body for doing the thing that's keeping us alive, giving us another day to work on it. But we shouldn't do that. We should be happy.
my point is also, if I go back a little bit, don't assume anything. Don't assume you're still eating your 20 grams of carbs per day or less. If you're on a stall and you think you shouldn't be, there's something going on happening. If you do everything right and you keep track and you measure, and like, that's fine. Like you said, your body is cleaning up and is doing internal stuff. But don't hesitate to go back on tracking, on measuring, on weighing your food, because like we all know, I know, like creeps are there, and like you start, you like nuts, you like cashews are a little bit more carby. You have to check your labels, you have to weigh, you have to measure your servings, because these can easily push you over your 20 grams of carbs or more, like if you into those nuts. If you think you shouldn't be on a plateau, then let's get back to basic. Let's get back to tracking, to measuring.
Now, the other thing I'm going to add there, I wasn't going to say this, but you just made me think of something. Cheat days, and being off plan slightly. And this is where it becomes really tricky when we're early in the process. I actually encourage everybody throughout your weight loss process to track everything, so that what you just talked about doesn't happen. If I'm tracking everything, then if my weight is not moving and I'm overeating, I know why my weight is not moving. We have to stop lying to ourselves. If I'm eating 30 grams of carbs per day and my weight loss stops happening, it's because I'm eating 10 extra grams of carbs per day that my body actually needs to store away as fat. I need to stop lying to myself and trying to pretend like that doesn't matter. That cookie, that French fry that I steal from my kid, that the keto treats that I'm making that I eat too many of, Like all of that stuff matters.
Yeah.
So if you're overdoing it, you need to be honest with yourself. Is that why the stall is happening?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you actually had a video like not so long ago about those like little creeps where like you have a bite of ice cream, a bite of French fries, yeah, they count. So you need, like, if you want to get back to basic, you need to track them.
And you did
So
the math on that. Let me like remind people, like
yeah,
one
like,
tablespoon of ice cream was like
oh, it's a couple grams, like just like it's probably like 2-3 grams, like a square of chocolate. Like I remember we
yeah.
talked about that, like
So
in a
it's
past
not
video.
insignificant
But
is the point, right?
mm,
2 grams here, like
yes,
4 French
of course,
fries was 2 grams of like it
yeah.
like 2 grams here, 1 gram here. At the end of your day, you've added an extra 7 grams or 8 grams that you're not tracking.
Hmm. Okay, so let's go back to maintenance for a bit. So you're doing everything good. Like you fall in a situation like you did. You want to stop losing weight because like your body maybe your body is gonna work toward losing more weight than you actually wanted to. Like it was like your case, um, and you want to switch to maintenance. So it's interesting here, like you added fat like to your coffee in the morning to have a couple like 100 calories more fat. The thing you want to avoid is adding carbs to that diet. So thing is, you don't use maintenance as an excuse to get back to your whole habits and eating carbs. That's gonna put you like right where you were before you started that journey. So it's important to, when you feel you want to stop losing weight, and don't go mad about adding fat. Just add a little bit until like your weight stabilizes.
That's if you need
Right?
to. Like
If
if
you
you're
need
still
to.
on a downward trajectory,
Yeah,
yes, you'll
true.
have to add some fat. But if you're, I mean, some people just, your body just stabilizes,
Mm.
right? So it depends if you need to. Like, and
Yeah.
maybe, like, I mean, again, in all fairness, I'm adding 2 tablespoons of
Hmm.
fat and 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. Like, that's not a lot,
No, no.
right? So it's like, it doesn't take much for our body to restabilize.
Hmm.
But if you start adding, I'm scared to call this, but if you start adding like fun things to restabilize, then you're putting yourself back in that situation where it's about what you're eating rather than being healthy. That's just a scary place to be, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of where that's, unfortunately, that's what got us in trouble in the first place.
Hmm.
So trying our best to look at it from a very logical point of view. Like, I do like coffee, so I'm not going to say that I don't like coffee, but adding a bit of fat to my coffee versus eating something, I find it very different because I would drink the coffee whether I had the 2 tablespoons of fat in there or not. I probably would still have the heavy cream,
Hmm.
but it would just be a heavy cream coffee. So I would, if regardless of whether I'm having the extra fat or not, I would still drink that coffee. What we need to keep in mind is not to put ourselves in situations that potentially trigger bad old habits.
Hmm. And we're thinking addiction in that case, especially like we're still, especially if you got to your ideal weight relatively shortly, like let's say you've been doing keto for 6 months, all those addictive triggers are there. Like if you go back to adding carbs, like in a matter of weeks, you're gonna be like completely off plan, and you're gonna go back to storing fat as crazy, like get your carbs into fat, and you don't want that.
And what's really scary is how easily we store fat.
Yeah.
And
know.
and what's scary about that too is that as we progress in time, the amount of fat we store, like it seems to increase. So there's that yo-yo thing that happens, right? That you start off at 200 pounds and then you get back at 150, and then when you regain, you're at 220, and then when you lose back to 150, and then when you regain, you're at 240, and like that. For some reason, when we regain weight, it's so much easier, and we are able to push a little bit extra storage. I don't even know why that happens, and it might be interesting to see if there's a doctor out there that can help me understand, like, why does that happen. But the end result is that when you go through all of that work to lose, and I mean, I'm saying all that work, in fairness, keto, like I lost 70 pounds in 5 months.
Without suffering
That's
too much.
insane.
But
Without suffering at
maybe
all.
the first few days of keto flu.
I had
but,
my keto flu days were difficult. I would say, no, I would honestly say my first month, just putting my mind around putting certain foods down and picking certain foods up. But I would say after a month and a half, where I've actually figured out the spices I like on what kind of vegetables, sailing, right? I mean, now I don't even bother with the vegetables, but that's a whole other story. The funny thing is that if I allow myself to go off plan even a little bit, I could see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds jumping on the scale like really fast. Why does that happen? I don't understand. But we need to know that it does happen, right? So better for me to pay attention to what I'm eating, right? And just do better for myself
Yeah.
than put myself in that position.
So if we get back to Singit's question, like in the beginning, so she mentions, I only hear you speak about meat and a veggie and sometimes an avocado. We still eat meat and veggies and avocados whether you're in keto or like not in maintenance or in maintenance. That didn't change actually. So like we said at the beginning, keto is not a high fat diet. You have your fat from your meat that you're eating. You're having a nice salad with a full fat like Caesar dressing or your favorite dressing. But like you cook with your fat, but you don't like add artificially add fat unless you really need to. So your diet before maintenance, after maintenance didn't really change, except not like caring about the vegetables, but like that was just you not caring about vegetables.
I've never cared about vegetables, so that's unfortunately just my personality. But I think the thing that I'm also going to just add to what she's saying there is because is it a high fat diet? One of the reasons that keto gets classified as a high fat diet is because it's so low in carbs. And once you diminish that amount of carbohydrates out of your diet, well, then the energy source that you're actually getting your energy from is fat. And even though, I mean, in fairness, I do believe that the average American, the average Canadian, the average Caribbean is eating that amount of fat anyway, which is part of the problem that we live. It's that we're not just doing a high carb diet. We're doing a high carb, high fat diet. Now, do we buy low fat yogurt? Sure we do. Do we buy lean meat? Sure we do. But then do we also deep fry our chicken? So we take that lean chicken breast and deep fry it?
You eat at your favorite fast food.
In poor quality oils? Do we turn around and like eat French fries? Like, do we eat chips?
Honestly,
like we eat so many, we eat so many high fat foods on our low fat diet. It's actually crazy.
Yeah, think about pizza. Pizza, you have your cheese, you have the pepperoni, high fat. You like sometimes you had oil on your pizza. So even a pizza is a high fat or high carb like food.
Like honestly, almost everything that we eat is high fat, high carb. When you go to a restaurant and you order a hamburger with French fries, that's a high fat, high carb meal. When you order pizza, it's a high fat, high carb meal. Most people at home are still eating, even at home, high fat, high carb meals because we're still frying things. We do the lovely thing. This drives me crazy. We do the lovely thing. Now that I think back on what the heck I was doing, that I'm going to have a salad and this low fat, blah, 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 all of it low fat. And then I'm going to turn around and have a cheesecake. Or I'm going to turn around and have cookies with like a bunch of butter and whatever in it. How is that there's still, if I make homemade cookies and there's a bunch of butter and whatever, that's still a high fat little. So I feel like we do things without realizing that what we're doing doesn't make sense. I'm doing low fat in my meal, but my desserts are still high fat. Chocolate.
Yeah.
Like I used to love having brownies. I remember first and foremost, if my mom made a pan, was that pan lasting a day? But I remember also like I would buy a brownie in high school. So either brownie or chocolate chip cookies, maybe sometimes both, every single day of the week in high school. Like it's crazy, but like we don't realize that there's a lot of fat in the stuff that we're eating, but then we're turning around, we're having low fat yogurt.
So in the end, so before, after maintenance, the same diet, and we call it keto. But if a regular person, even doing healthy on the standard American diet, you just cut the pasta, you cut the rice, you cut the grains, you cut the dessert,
soft drinks,
like you need to really pay attention where the sugar is. If you consider yourself like eating healthy, you're probably close to keto to do a super low carb. Like if you stick with the meat,
we still have those high
salad.
glycemic vegetables they need to pay attention to.
Yeah. You need to be careful with those like boiled potatoes and carrots.
I really do feel that the reason that people have such a hard time doing a ketogenic lifestyle is that when you take it seriously, you're not eating cookies.
Yeah.
You're not eating chips.
But
You're
to,
not eating a lot of the junk food that people like to eat. I'm sorry. I feel like if we could still have those things, then people would do it. And that's why a lot of people in the keto world lean towards those replacement foods.
yeah.
But the problem is that when you look at those people, they also end up in trouble,
Mm.
right? Because even those replacement foods are highly processed, and so you're still getting more carbohydrate and more chemicals than your body is able to manage. And so a lot of the time, you still end up in trouble with those things. I know what I'm saying is not popular.
Mm.
I know what I'm saying is against the grain. But my job here is to talk to you about being healthy. And I'm saying it because I want you to consider that if I process a bunch of almonds to make this delicious cookie for you to eat, if you sat down with a serving of almonds, you would need about 5 servings to make that cookie. So how that they're going to say that those numbers are equivalent? Like, to me, I don't get it,
Mm.
right? Is that's just the almond flour. We still have all the other things. So
Mhm.
I want us to think about it. I want us to be logical in what we're doing. I want us to aim at health more so than getting our entertainment from food. So in your question, Sing It, I think the thing that I want you to realize is that the reason I talk about eating meat, veg, the occasional avocado, I do eat cheese, I do eat nuts occasionally. I've really had to back off of that. I do eat
I know
seeds
there's
though.
no nut at your place.
I know there's no nuts at my house
But it's
anymore
okay,
because
yeah.
Violet can't control
Yeah,
herself.
and I try to.
And I need to be more on top of things. And when I go to your place and there are nuts there, I'm happy but kind of mad at you
Yeah.
because you know I'm coming over.
No, when you come over, I'm not buying them anymore. but
But this is reality, right? Like I need to be aware of like my tripping points.
maybe you can link those videos like here. But like you have a couple of videos on addiction like recently, and or to becoming, I don't know where we are like with the video posting. But when you feel you're losing control over a food, that's like you need to realize that like it's when it's getting like in addiction territory, or carbs are creeping in. Like I think
Yeah, I mean,
like you did with the nuts, like I did with the nuts too. And
yeah, like honestly,
so
like when it was back in the day, and I didn't have a chocolate bar for the day yet, and I'm like my spider senses are tingling and
mm,
like I want to jump through the window, and now the same thing can happen to me with nuts. If I
mm,
allow myself to eat nuts and I have a day where there's no nuts in the house, I'm like, it's like okay, like there's a part where I have to start to realize that's not a good thing for me to engage, whether it's there or not. I should allow myself to eat something better. If you're hungry, just as I tell myself, when you're hungry, Violet, go get a meal, right? Stop being snacky.
mm,
And the truth is, I don't go get a meal at that point because I'm not actually hungry. I'm just knowing that they're there. This is how strong the carbohydrate thing is, because
mhm.
when I don't eat nuts for a while, I can see them and be like, yeah, whatever. But as soon as I let myself eat them,
Yeah. So bottom line, keep your 20 your grams of carb at 20 or less, whether you're in maintenance or not in maintenance or in maintenance, and play with the amount of fat. Like if you see your body like stepping in your own fat, it's probably because you don't have enough fat in your diet, so you had a little bit more. Could be a fat bomb, could be like you do a little bit more fat in your coffee, although like maybe not every. So you need to find what like fits you.
find
So yeah,
the fat, the
maybe
extra fat.
a little bit more dressing in your salad could be just that.
Like I
So
said, when you are in weight loss mode, track everything.
yeah.
When I was in weight loss mode, even how much salad dressing, I put the salad bowl on the scale. I added my salad dressing until I got to the number,
Hmm.
right? I believe I was putting 2 tablespoons in my salad. There's a reason for that because I know if I
Yeah.
don't do it, I can put 3. I love salad dressing, right? But is it really what I need to do? Now I can overdo my salad dressing a little bit because I'm trying to stay in maintenance,
Mhm.
right? So it's true. Like what you're saying is spot on. Pay attention
Yeah.
and find the source of the fat or the carb, depending on which one, that
Mhm.
might be keeping you in out of weight loss mode,
Mhm.
if that's what's happening. And for Sing It, if you're looking to know why we only talk about eating real food, is because honestly that's what we're encouraging you to do.
Yeah.
Eat real food and manage your weight by eating your real food. If I need to eat a little more, I eat a little more.
Mhm.
But this is not a high fat diet. It's a normal
low,
fat diet.
and it's a low carb diet.
It's a low
Definitely
carb
low
diet.
carb diet.
And I mean, and we can only call it a low carb diet because the standard American diet, standard Canadian diet pushed us to be in a position where we were eating way too much carb. This is a normal diet.
Yeah.
Right? This is, go back to 1900s, the early 1900s or the late 1800s, you were not eating 300 grams of carbs a day. So, you know what, guys, if there's more questions about this, put them in the comments below. Let us know how you have either allowed yourself to get into maintenance or what you're doing right now to continue to be on your weight loss journey. Health journey, actually. Why did I call it that? What you're doing right now to be on your health journey. I want to thank you for watching Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet, Pat Chat Edition. We love making these videos for you guys, Wellness Warriors. Oh, always happy that you're here. We have t-shirts. We have Patreon in the description below. Love making these videos for you guys. Can't wait to talk to you, boys. Go ahead.
Talk to you next week.
I can't wait to talk to you again next week.